Is Sacramento and the Sacramento area affordable in 2025? We all know that the Sacramento area is the best bang for your buck for the California lifestyle in California. But how does it compare to the nation? Guys, this video is all about affordability and if Sacramento still fits the bill of affordability in 2025. We're going to talk about various areas, home prices, and everything else that you need to know about, as well as give you affordable options in the Sacramento area that might work for you. Let's get into the video. We want to know what you think as well in the comments below. Let's go. All right, how you guys doing tonight? All right, got Aaron as always. How's it going, Aaron? How you doing, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing, man? Good to be here.
Cool, man. All right, so let's talk Sacramento. As far as Sacramento goes, as far as affordability, I think what you could I think we could sum up Sacramento this way. This is my own opinion. Like the cost of living in Sacramento, California, the Sacramento area is higher than national average, but lower than the rest of the state. How do you feel about that?
I agree with that. I think when you talk about like the affordability factor in the area, it's that whole saying your perceptions, your reality. If you ask somebody that's from Sacramento, like prior to the COVID boom, or like they've been here their whole life, they feel like they're from the 90s in San Jose, and they think that everything's overpriced and unaffordable and all that. However, if you're coming from other markets, you actually you think California is a steal, or I'm sorry, not California, Sacramento is a steal. So it's kind of depending on where you're from. I feel like really dictates your perception on it. But in my opinion, I help people all over the state and in several states, and Sacramento is definitely much more affordable than a lot of the areas that are out there.
For me, I look at it this way, like, I love the California lifestyle. I love California in general. I love the weather. I like the idea that I haven't felt a tornado or hurricane here for forever. And so for me, like, I think there's a lot of perks to living here. I think a lot of people might go, yeah, it is higher than a Texas or this or that. But, there's also a lot of flooding, a lot of stuff going on over there too. I think you kind of pay, and a lot of people hate when I say this, you pay the premium to live in California, but like the weather here, yeah, it gets hot. You can afford a pool. You see the seasons change. Right now, the weather's perfect outside. Close to Tahoe, close to the Bay Area. We got wine country. We got so much happening right here that, like, for me, it does make sense that it's more expensive than the majority of the country. I mean, we get a lot here,
Totally.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like anyone who says anything about like, oh, what it is, I'd rather move to, I mean, that's great. Find your place. But like, there is a reason why people are moving to like Sacramento. You know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of how it is. Like, for me, I look at it and go, is it as affordable as 5 years ago? No. But if you look towards the rest of the United States, everywhere became less affordable. Like Pamela just said, I'm afraid affordability doesn't exist anywhere anymore. And it's true. Everything jumped up. Price points jumped up. And it's not just Sacramento. I know a lot of people who live here are looking around going, there's nothing I can afford at this point. I probably should have jumped in a little while before, but I just couldn't. And now I can't. And I get it, but it's not just the Sacramento area. It's not just California. It's like everywhere. Everything's jumped up. COVID put us in a situation where the rates were low. A lot of people jumped in, and now all of a sudden we're seeing prices go increase. And I don't think they're going to slow down anytime soon. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to go like this. I'm saying that I'm not thinking they're going to dip. I think, like I said, I think this year will probably go up a little bit. I'm not thinking a lot. You know what I mean? Basically what I've been reading about Redfin, Zillow, and all these other like CoreLogics and everything too. Everyone was predicting that, prices were going to go. But now buyer demand's a little lower. And now people are predicting, yeah, we'll go a little bit higher. But at the same time, this inventory that's popping on the market is we thought buyer demand would be out there to eat it all up, and it's not. And so inventory is kind of hitting out there, and we're in this kind of a weird little area right now. What do you think?
Oh, for sure. We're in uncharted territories. You've got a mass amount of homeowners that have record low interest rates, and their affordability, they don't want to move, or they're not, necessarily financially incentivized to move. And you've got, builders, they're much smarter now. I think everybody just thinks that if builders could just build more houses, that would solve the problem. But the reality is that, guys, builders do not want to build more houses. I mean, they kind of say that they do, like, when they're doing their shareholder meetings and all that stuff. But the reality is that they don't want to create too much supply because that'll bring down the demand, which brings down the prices. And they're getting big, huge, fat margins. And so they're not going to produce more widgets than they're already cranking out. So we're not going to have more supply than and you still have the same kind of demand. So I agree with you that we're not going to have like parabolic climbs in value, but at the same time, just the basic fundamentals of supply and demand. We have way more people that exist that are alive that need a home, that need a place to live, than homes that exist or that homes that are being created. And so for that reason, I do agree that home prices are probably going to go up 3, 4, 5, maybe 6% in various areas, even though interest rates are like kind of static around that like 7-ish% rate.
For me, here's what I'm seeing right now too, and Tatiana's here. Hey, Tatiana, how are you doing? If you have good news, Mark, then I'm staying. I think we are seeing a little bit of good news, especially for buyers right now. I think right now what we've been noticing. What we've been seeing right now is the fact that like throughout the United States, we're seeing inventory pop up sooner than expected, but we're not seeing buyer demand kind of jump in as we thought it would be. Buyers are still kind of on the fence. They're still kind of waiting to see what happens. We saw a little bit of a surge early in January and everything's kind of settled down. Buyers are a little bit back on the fences and inventory in other areas of the country is stacking up. Sacramento, it's getting there as well too. But I do think that right now, like if you're someone who's looking to buy, if it's your time to buy, this could be an interesting moment because I do think that you're going to see if you go into a house and there's no furniture in there and people have carrying costs, you could make deals happen. And we've been able to kind of do that, like Michelle put a couple in contract that way too. So I do think that right now it's going to be interesting. I mean, interest rates are now, based on your credit and everything too, under 7. We haven't seen interest rates go down in a little while, right, Aaron? I mean, interest rates are looking better now, correct?
They have been trending in the right direction. I mean, we had an exciting rally back in September that lasted a whole 23 days, and then on the 23rd day we got that unemployment jobs report that had it was totally unexpected, and it just kind of killed the market. And we've been kind of digging ourselves out of that hole since. But I believe that we're around like a 60-day, 65-day, trending high. So in terms of rates, I mean, trending low, like things are trending lower, not higher. I'm sorry. So we're heading in the right direction. As we get more and more inflation data and employment data, it seems like the markets have gotten more numb to the data. Like for a while there, it was like everybody was always expecting something, and then we would get the opposite, and then the whole market would fall apart. And if you look at the last couple of cycles of reporting, whether it was on inflation or on housing or jobs, there were a lot of surprises. And those surprises, I was expecting it just to like kill the market. And ultimately, it didn't really derail anything because I think investors have come to terms with the fact that a lot of that data is bogus or faulty, and whatever you want to call it, because there's all the revisions and it gets changed 50 times and all that stuff. And also they just kind of got numb to it. So I think we're heading in the right direction. But I just to dogtail on what you were saying, I totally agree with you in terms of there being opportunity right now. I personally am seeing a lot of creative offers from sellers. Here's an example. There's a listing right now where the seller will give you a 4.5% seller financed rate on the first 400,000 out of the 800,000 purchase. So like what you could do literally is like you make your down payment and go get a second mortgage for 8-9% or whatever, and then your blended rate between half of the balance, or more than half really, because you make a down payment at 4.5 and then the rest being at the higher amount, you're paying a much you're blended the average between the two, you're paying a well below average market average interest rate, making it way more affordable And I wasn't seeing things like that 3, 6, 12 months ago. So sellers are definitely getting a lot more creative, in my opinion, right now, or open to buyers, offering with their, creativity. So I think that there is more opportunity definitely as a buyer. I mean, that doesn't mean that home prices are not expensive in most people's opinions, or that it's not going to cost a lot, but ultimately, I think you're going to have an easier time right now. Because remember, guys, like if you just look at when interest rates back in September dipped down into the fives, things went bananas again. It reminded me of like when it was COVID times, and there's 50 offers on a house and all that for a period of time. So there is a lot of pent up demand. So I still feel like if your timing is right, like in terms of timing your life, then the market timing's really well as far as being a buyer right now. I do think that you're in a better position than a seller in most cases.
Okay. Prince says 6K at 6% for me is not affordable, unfortunately. Yeah, I agree with
Hmm.
you. Like, I think, like, as far as if someone is seeing that comparatively towards what was in the market like 4 years ago, it's a hard one. It's a hard pill to swallow. I'd say for the average person living in Sacramento that's maybe grown up here and saw a house now for $600,000, and maybe 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, it was like 20, 30, 200, $300,000 less. I mean, like, I get it. It feels like it's a big mountain that you're looking at and going to yourself, like, I don't know. I don't know if that's realistic for me. And I get it. And I think for a lot of people, that's why they're turning to new homes for these like interest rate buy downs and everything too. But I will
Sure.
say this. Aaron does make a valid point about this too. Like with the new homes, you're going to be paying Melrose till the end of time. You could have an HOA on top of that as well too. So they might offer you like maybe the 5% interest rates, which you're smiling ear to ear, but you got this Melrose that's stuck with you till the end of time, and maybe even an HOA. Whereas if you do maybe like a seller credit, $30,000 seller credit on a house that's maybe been on the market for about 2, 3 weeks, and you have a good realtor to do that for you, you might be able to get a buy down, and then you don't have to deal with this Melrose. So there are interesting ways that you can kind of structure stuff. I do think though it's going to be interesting to see where rates go if they keep going down. That for me is interesting. Like the fact that I thought we would be around the sevens, but now we're kind of dipping. I
Hmm.
think our market is interesting because I've been watching a lot of stuff and seeing that a lot of markets inventory is peaking and buyer demand is tanking. Ours isn't that bad, but inventory is coming back, but buyer demand isn't as good as we thought it'd be right now. Are things moving? Price aggressively? Yes, they are. But what we're bumping into right now is a lot of sellers are still throwing stuff back on the market at the same price they had it a year ago, and a year ago it
Yep.
didn't sell. Big problem with our market. And new homes, honestly, I think new home incentives right now are horrible. I just don't think they're good. I think new home incentives right now, I think they thought it would be a lot more packed at the new home developments than it is. And I think their incentives aren't great right now. I see them all across the board and I'm looking at it. I'm not really that impressed. And I think sooner than later, they're going to have to give and start offering probably better incentives because of the low demand. What do you think, Aaron?
It's funny you bring up sellers relisting houses. I was on Zillow the other day. My wife sent me a listing, and I hop on there. And then, so of course, I get sucked into the rabbit hole, and I'm like, scrolling through stuff. And I literally, Mark, I went and I cleared the cache in my browser because I was like, oh, geez, like these houses, these images must be stuck in my web browser because there's no way that these houses are still for sale or whatever. And because I was on my laptop, and of course I clear it and everything, refresh, and no, it's all the retreads. And so I start looking at it, and of course they've relisted again, and they've either relisted at the same price, some of them have listed at a higher price, and that actually caught my interest because I'm like, okay, well, what the hell did you do if you had zero demand last time? What did you do to create a higher price? Because you can't just say that the market value went up just because the market went up or whatever, right? Like, what'd you do? And in the couple of them that I looked at, I didn't see anything different. In fact, two of them had the same photos from the previous listing. So the same agent probably didn't even, spend money to have new photos done or whatever the case is. So a lot of retreads, which I think totally muddies the water because people think that inventory sitting versus those are delusional sellers. they're not realistic. That whatever price point they've set, that's not realistic, because if they set whatever the market would pay for it, then it would get sold. That's how, the free market works, right? Supply and demand. So I do see that kind of clogging up the system a little bit, and creating like a kind of, sediment with buyers that are like thinking that the market is actually sitting, when in fact, if a home is turnkey, and priced accordingly, it doesn't sit on the market for very many days. I didn't take the time to look at what the current days on market is, but I'm sure it's like under 30 days for sure within the Sacramento area. So if they're priced accordingly and they're turnkey, they're moving quick. But of course, the retreads, the full remodel, the 1970s shag carpet, all that stuff, sitting forever. And then the builders, I'm seeing that as well. However, I think though that could turn into potential opportunities. You got to watch the builders on a monthly/quarterly basis. Most of them are publicly traded, and they're all about moving widgets. And so if they start getting a backlog on their building and all that stuff, then all of a sudden they'll fire up the incentive machine, and there could be some pretty sweet deals. But lately we've been smoking the builder. We've been offering better deals than like Taylor and some of the other builders, just because they're not offering very good stuff. And a lot of
They're
them
not.
also, well, not only that, I've noticed a lot of them too, they're not like offering current pricing. Like they're not doing a float down basically. And like interest rates have improved quite a bit from where they were like a couple months ago or whatever. And so definitely, shop around like always or whatever. But it's an interesting market. Everything keeps shifting for sure. And I do think that the builder space, as their inventory and backlog situation changes, that could open up a good opportunity for buyers that are paying attention.
Yeah, I agree too. I
That
mean, I think it's just about being astute, looking at the market, educating yourself. If you want to buy, don't have that kind of pressure where you're saying to yourself, I want to buy right now. Get your education piece done, figure it out, figure out the neighborhoods, areas, schools, all that stuff that matters to you now. So that way, when you see something you like or the timing's right for you, you're kind of already there. Kayla says, nice homes with big yards are pending sale in less than 10 days, no problem. 6 can up. That's the interesting part of this market. The middle tier buyer, I would say like the 600s to maybe the 850, things are moving quick. I would say the first time home buyers, the 450s, 550s, and they're just a little slower right now, which is kind of interesting in our market. I think the first time home buyer is really looking at that interest rate and going like, is that something I want to deal with right now? It's maybe more affordable to rent or to stay renting. So it's an interesting market. I think also what you're seeing though right now is because inventory is popping up a little bit in our market, like you are seeing people that are kind of veering their heads away from, the new home stuff because that was the only thing they had. And they're seeing stuff pop up and they're seeing if the math works. They're saying to themselves, okay, let's look at my monthly payment. Let's look at it without Melrose. I get a little land, privacy. And I think a established community is becoming more of a priority here for people moving into the area. So I like that. I think it's good. I think like I tell people all the time on this channel is the fact that like before COVID, new homes were, they're okay. They're there. Some people are buying them. That's great. After COVID, they became this like Disneyland for adults out there, and it was just nuts. New homes were just building, building, building. If you look at the history of new homes, back in the day, you'd see maybe one or two Lennar communities, one or two Taylor Morrison communities, a KB here and there, and now it's like ridiculous. You got like Lennar's got like at least like 10, 15 communities in the Sacramento area. I mean, people are building like crazy because inventory was low. Incentives were being given. People wanted to move to Sacramento, and now new homes are a little bit more of that thing. And they're not going away anytime soon. But I do think that a lot of the people that went to new homes, it was because of lack of inventory, and because of rates. And I think that like now with the inventory, and like Aaron mentioned, if you can put in a seller credit, resale is becoming a little bit more popular. The only thing is we're still dealing with all the sellers that have 2.75s. And they're basically saying, look, I want $1 million for my home, and if you're not getting me $1 million, then I'm okay sitting on my rate. I can sit here as long as you can. That's another big problem in our market. You know what I mean, Aaron? That's going to be there for a while. I don't see that going
Oh
away
yeah.
anytime soon. What do you think?
Oh no, that's gonna that'll just naturally kind of sort itself out over time. But I mean, but like when I say over time, like over a decade or two, like there's gonna be that's gonna be a problem that plagues us for a long time.
Oh,
One thing that you mentioned that I think is on the rise too is people that are buying those like mid-level houses. uh, you know I think a lot of them are looking for those resales because you can get a little bit of a yard, and the homesteading is like hugely on the rise right now. Like everybody's making sourdough bread and have chickens and all that stuff, and it's hard to squeeze that in at your zero lot line Lennar house or whatever. And so and plus there's no trees. A lot of them you don't have your backyard or landscaping, or you got to spend a mint to do that. So I think that for most people, that can afford to buy in this market, a lot of them are like, it's two household, working professionals with kids, is what I'm seeing mostly. So you got dual incomes, that kind of thing. And they can afford, somewhere in that range of, like you said, like 600 to 850, somewhere in that range. And that really opens up a lot of doors all over the Sacramento market. I mean, pretty much every neighborhood for the most part you can step into. And some of them you can get a pretty sweet, house with like a quarter-acre lot or something like that, where you got a lot of space to do things like that. So I am seeing a lot more of that for sure.
for me, straight up, here's the thing for me. Honestly, like I look at myself, I don't have a Melrose, but I have an HOA. My HOA is like 350 or something. And I look at it this way: when I get older than now, like I want to travel. I want to do stuff. I want to be able to like not have this like HOA thing or Melrose. I look at it more towards a retirement thing, like an additional
Sure.
cost, like I like the idea of becoming like, if there are lean years to be able to be lean and not have this Melrose or HOA hanging over my head. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. For me, that's kind of how I look at it. Are we CJ? I just bought a home about a month ago, West Roseville, 800K with 5.25 interest rate. Both me and my wife have A plus credit. Good job, man. Like I said, if you could find that house that you love and it's your time to buy, 5.25 in this market,
It's a
that's
sweet
nothing.
deal.
That's good. That's good. Very good. I'm guessing you went new
That,
home
that,
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was either a new home or a seller credit, like you were talking about how you might negotiate where the seller does the rate buy down instead of the builder doing it. But that's a buy down right there for sure.
Now, here's the thing, though, I will say, and I said this in the video I dropped on Friday. I do think there is validity in a Melrose. I do. My biggest problem with Melrose is I think the builders should be picking up a little bit more of the tab. Builders are making a killing on our houses, man. They're making a killing. Lennar, Taylor, all the builders are making a killing. I think they should pick up a little bit more of the tab for the Melrose, because I think that it's just going to allow them to sell houses for a higher price point. And I think they should do it for the money they're making. So that's just my own 2 cents on that. If you guys think the builders should be paying more Melrose, please hit that like button. All right, we got Sarah. Come on, 2026. The year seems too expensive to jump into. This year seems too expensive to jump into. It's tough, Sarah. I'm with you. Like I said, like my main thing is I'm looking at this going like I think as far as people moving in, maybe moving in from like a price point like a Bay Area or LA where they're moving into our market. It does make sense for a lot of people here. It's a tough one, like house prices went like this, job salaries went like this, and so it's a tough one. Like I would love to basically be able to have a crystal ball so I could time the market, so I could tell everyone out there, jump in now. You can refi in 6 months when rates are down 2.75. There's just nothing like that around. The hardest part about this market is going to be like if we do get into fives, buyer demand could push prices up, and buyer demand could mean additional a market where all of a sudden you're waiving appraisal contingencies and everything too. So it's a tough one. Like I said, it's not a great market for a buyer. I think the buyers unfortunately had their teeth kicked in a little bit, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. And I think that's why with this new inventory, buyers aren't jumping at whatever's out there. I think buyers are a little bit like, yeah, we want to buy, We waited last year, rates didn't drop, but it's still not affordable, and I'm still not seeing what I want, and I'm still picky. And so I think we saw buyers like jump, but then kind of jump back on the fence really, really quick. I myself, you're like that too, Aaron. I mean, you're super picky about what you're buying. I am super picky about what I'm buying. I wouldn't jump if I was in the market right now to get another house and I was going to have to pay a high interest rate. I wouldn't jump unless my time was perfect to buy. And I saw something that was like a 9 or a 10 that I said to myself, okay, I'm going to be in that thing for at least the next like 7 to 10 years. You know, what do you think, Aaron?
Well, if you're going to pay a premium, then you're going to, only want to do it if you're getting what you want out of it. And I think in most circumstances, the inventory on the market, it's got a lot of, it's that fruit at the supermarket that's kind of bruised up, and it's got like the nicks in it and the scratches, and like it's not that like perfect shiny, just ripe, avocado or whatever. Like that thing has already been turned into guac. And you know when you got to pay a premium price because sellers haven't dropped their, the market hasn't come down, the market's come up. So if you got to pay a premium on price, and then also you're paying, what most people feel like a premium in interest rates, just because we're still like stinging from how quickly interest rates came up. I mean, historically, rates have never shot up that quick, that much. We went from 2s to 8s in a matter of like 13 or 14 months or something like that. It was crazy. And so, a lot of people are like still in denial a bit. Like, they're just like, this just isn't a reality that I want to accept, or whatever the case is. And so buyers are super picky. And, if they're not getting exactly what they want, they're not making a move unless they're being forced to. I would say like a good 50% of my transactions, maybe 75% of my transactions are, it's like death, divorce, relocation, like they've got 5 kids in a 2-bedroom house. Like they've got a thing that's forcing the situation. It's not like they're like, well, I really like my place and my 2.99 interest rate, but I'd really could go for a little bit more space. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the 6.5%, at a double the house price that I paid for, or whatever. Most people aren't, in that mindset. So it's a different market. What's this map?
Made a map, guys. I'm going to take you on a fulsome tour on Friday at 7 too. And I created this map. It took me literally 2 days to do it. Not this one, but the one I'm doing for Folsom. It has like everything in it. It's gonna be the amazing tour for you guys on Friday. Like, and I'm gonna make it downloadable so you guys can take a tour of Folsom and everything too. Okay, so I'm showing you guys some options here. I'm gonna show you some of the most competitive markets in Sacramento, and then I'm gonna show you some of the options that you can go jump into for a little bit more affordable pricing. That's not really, I mean, it's far from Sacramento, but it's like not that far from Sacramento. So Folsom right here. Okay, I would say Folsom, probably the most popular market. I don't know though if it's the most competitive, but I will say one thing: it definitely is like one of those like markets that's just, it's a tough market to jump into. I'd say Folsom, maybe 35 minutes from downtown. You got Folsom Lake right over here too. You got the outlets, you got everything right here too, which is really, really nice. Folsom price point to get in there, I'd say in the new home stuff over here, where the Regency is and everything too, you're talking, I don't know. I mean, and the new elementary school going in there as well too. You're talking at the new homes at Taylor Morrison, you probably get in there in the high 7s. Toll Brothers, Regency for active community, maybe in the 7s as well too. No, maybe in the 6s actually. I'd say Toll Brothers as well too out there for Preserve hidden the Preserve area there. You're talking like $1 million plus. And Folsom for the resale stuff, like your Briggs Ranch and everything too, which I'll go into at, I think you can get in there, like probably like for like 650s, which I like. And here's a little bit of sample of Briggs Ranch. I think that for the most part, these communities, oh, look, there's someone walking, are so pretty. Like, this is Briggs Ranch, guys, for you, just to show you a little bit. Cute houses, set back. And this is kind of what I think a lot of people are leaning into. The whole Briggs Ranch areas, the whole areas like American River Canyon North and everything too. Cute homes. But here's the thing, guys. These homes right here that I'm showing you, these are like, you can get into Briggs Ranch probably around 650. You can find inventory. Also Rancho Diablo next to it. These are houses without Melloroos, out HOAs, and everything too. And this is kind of like Folsom. Now, price point, this is where I'd be looking if I was going into Folsom. Now, is it one of those things that's going to be easy to do? Absolutely not. Folsom is a tough market. What do you think of Folsom?
I love Folsom. I just, I wouldn't, if you're somebody that's like trying to get a deal, you're probably not going to find it in Folsom, because in most circumstances, the deal is that you won, basically, because there's very little, especially in the resale market, there's very little inventory. And so it's highly competitive. So I would expect to, have to put on your gloves and go in for a fight, but there's definitely opportunities there. I love Folsom. I think that that's the best neighborhood in the whole area. Like if that's where I was going to pick.
Okay. Oh, we got a problem. We got a sorry. What's the problem with Lennar? Okay, so here's the thing with Lennar. Like I said, like I can't really comment too much. Like some people have good houses, some people don't. But you get that stuff with almost any other builder. The thing that I run into with Lennar is that it seems like there's a big communication thing. And maybe some people haven't had that experience, but more than not, I run into people from Lennar and they were basically like, like we got into our house, we had a couple issues. Every builder has these type of things, but they reached out to the builder and there was just this lack of like, there's no like person there to talk to, right? And that's one of the things for me that would be a little frustrating. Like I said, like Taylor Morrison, you talk to Shig, he's going to be there for the end of time. You're going to run in there and say, hey Shig, how you doing? You go to Taylor Morrison and like East Elk Grove, you talk to Lorenzo, he's there. Hey, how's it going? Do you have a problem? The supervisor, Bob, over there too. Even Toll Brothers has people you can kind of run into. The superintendents, the salespeople are kind of there for you after the fact. See, the biggest thing for me is this. People don't realize, and they think that like getting like a house is almost the same thing as getting like a car or TV or something like this. Guys, majority of people that we move into new homes, like there's a reason why they do the year fit and finish, because a lot of times, even though it's a brand new home, there's so many moving pieces that there tends to be stuff that's wrong. Hey, this faucet didn't work. Hey, the hot water isn't, there's a little this and this and this. So you need to basically work with companies that are very much like, the salespeople, the superintendent, they're very, very responsive. And what I've heard from Lennar is the fact that there's really no person. There's like, you put in like your request, and they get to it when they can. And there's not that human being out there that you can kind of talk to and deal with. And for me, like that would be a big problem if I was going to make the biggest purchase of my life, basically. And I was routed to a website where I had to submit my ticket and I just didn't know what was going on. So for me, that's one of the things that a lot of clients that we talk to, and we're like, you know what, look, we're not going to tell you yes or no. Just go to the forums and take a look at what people are saying about this specific builder. And more than not, what we end up happening is like next morning, they're like, you know what? We're not going to look over here. We're going to look over here. And that's it. So that's kind of how I see it. Like I said, every builder, every area is different. You have build crews like from Lennar that are like different in El Dorado Hills than they are in Natomas. That's just the way it is. But as far as salespeople, as far as like that person that you're talking to, that's a part of the puzzle that I think that really like Lennar could improve on. I guess that's what I'll say. What do you think, Aaron?
I have a really good friend of mine. He's a home inspector, and he makes a full-time living off of inspecting brand new construction houses for that very company and other companies. And I am never cease to be amazed of how many issues there are with brand new houses. You assume, you're like, well, this is brand new, isn't it perfect? And it's like, no, actually, they slapped this thing together with duct tape and baling wire because they're just trying to crank out widgets, and it's missing this or that, or this isn't hooked up right, or I can't even tell you all the, horror stories I've had, like where I've been working with clients that, a week before the walkthrough or whatever, they realized that, they forgot to install the bathtub and they've completed the bathroom. And so, oh, we just thought that was a big sitting area, or, whatever the case is. So there's a lot of issues that happen in the construction process. And so you definitely, you got to inspect what you expect. And so don't just think because it's brand new that it's going to be perfect. And that's, so part of your decision of, what car brand you want to buy, to put that analogy back into place, you got to make sure you're getting one with a good warranty and one that has a good customer service process to handle that warranty, so that you're not just put in the queue like Mark's talking about.
All right. So we got our next one. Have the rents gone up in 2025 versus 2024? Even in a location specific, what is the average percent increase? Looking for investment property. I think rents have kind of stayed the same. I haven't seen them really increase that much in Sacramento. How about you?
It's anywhere between like 2 to 3.4% or something like that, depending on the market that you're looking at. It's not crazy like it was, a few years ago, where we were seeing, massive jumps. So it really just kind of depends on, where that you're looking to invest in. I personally, like, if I were looking to invest in a rental property right now, with where interest rates are, with where home prices are at, with where, rent is, all that stuff, just like how kind of difficult it can be to kind of, put the puzzle together to make it to where it's a good cash flow and makes sense. I'd be looking at, like, a place near the hospitals where I could potentially rent to, like, traveling nurses, or, people that are like medical professionals, that, basically, high income earners, that, I could charge a premium, that aren't going to trash my place. And there are some good opportunities for that are, within a price point to where you can have good cash flow. Kind of just depends on how much financing you need. If you're doing a 1031 exchange or something like that, which, Mark and his team, shameless plug, they're really good at doing those 1031. So if you got a 1031 that you need to do, you got the time constraints, all that stuff, they're pros at that. But if you're in that situation, then it's just math on, your return on investment. But if you got to get financing, which, I could help you with that, but, we really got to, put the pencil to paper and kind of figure out the numbers, so that we can make sure that the property cash flows for you. Because a lot of people aren't, typically, most investors aren't looking to purchase an investment property and then also have to come out of pocket to, like, cover, the overhead on it. You usually want the rent to at least cover your overhead on the property. But there's still opportunities. It's just, you got to be a really good, you're treasure hunting.
I would say for you guys, also for investors specifically, is don't get so caught up into this new home thing. The rates that they're talking about and all that stuff too aren't investor rates. So just kind of understand this. Like, I think the most they can get is 2%. So just understand that when you see this amazing rate and you're a first time investor and you're going in there and you think you're going to get that, you're not. For me, if I'm an investor right now, I'm looking in the Rosemont area, the College Glen area. I love the idea of having a place near Sacramento State. Don't have to rent to college kids, but they eat up all the rentals over there. So the rentals tend to be really high over there too. They're not like, the new home stuff where it's open concept, but they're really, really nice, cute little houses, cute little communities, very laid back, suburban kind of vibe. It's almost exactly what you want. I know a lot of people who keep their entire portfolio in that area. So for me, that's where probably I would hone in on. There's other areas, probably like certain parts of Oak Park, certain parts of Natomas near the airport in downtown too. But if you have questions, reach out to myself, reach out to Aaron, and we can kind of point you in the right direction. We also brought on a guy, Corey McKinnon, and he is basically no relation to Peter McKinnon, but Corey, and he is going to be dealing with all the investors in commercial. He's actually been working with people that have investor clients that have actually, he's moved them into quads, and then some people he's actually working commercial deals with them. So he's really good. So reach out if you want to. Zoom link below. All right. Boom. How's the market looking like in the 95757? Is there still a bidding war for homes out there? Yes, there is. Now, I will say Folsom in general, for maybe the price points of like the 8s, 9s, a millions. That's that market right there. That's Folsom in a nutshell. That's like their bread and butter. That's the market that it's hard. Now it's in Elk Grove. We're talking like anywhere between like 550 and 850. That's Elk Grove's market. That's like, that you put something on the market, it's priced right, and it'll fly. Elk Grove is like that. We had a house. It wasn't in the 757, but it was in the 624. And that thing blew up too. I mean, we went over, yeah, it was just, it did really, really well. So like Elk Grove's always going to be a very competitive market. And like I said, 757, oof, that is just a tough zip code. It always has been. Maybe there was like 2 months in the last like 5 years where it was actually slow, but it's still tough. Now with new homes, it's the same thing. You got New Home Company out there, Taylor Morrison out there. What do you got? You got like, Woodside doing their thing. You got Beazer out there as well too. You got a ton of new home builders over there as well too. So it's a tough market to jump into. And like I said, we have Alana who's doing a lot of deals out there as well too with new homes. But it's tough. I mean, 757 is definitely the most competitive in that price range. What do you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you'd have to hop in a time machine and go back to like 2009 when that whole development was, like a foreclosure zombie neighborhood, and it was where all the builders overbuilt, and now you fast forward almost 20 years, and I mean that's pretty much the highest demand area in Elk Grove. It's the newest area. It's got the newest schools, the newest shopping, all that stuff. It's really nice. Doesn't have any trees, just like the Lorax or whatever, but, give it 20 or 30 years. But, it's a really well planned out area. I do like that there are a lot of little pockets of little shopping villages where you've got a Bel Air or a Nugget or something like that with all your little staples and everything that are all pretty conveniently located. So I also am pretty bullish on the appreciation forecast for that area. That one, 758. Even like the southeast part of 624. They've just got enough, plenty of land to keep extending that thing south. And that's kind of what the builders just keep doing is working their way down. So a lot of demand, a lot of room for growth over there. And then eventually, probably like 10 years from now or so, the 5 and 50 will connect through, or I'm sorry, the 99 and the 50 will connect through Grant Line. And that'll be like a whole other thing that, that'll really kind of bring that, like the south end of the 757 and 758 to life over there.
Check this out. This is the first kind of phase of building the 757. This is kind of, if you guys are looking in the Madera area, Beazer area or whatnot, this is kind of what their first phase kind of looked like. Yeah, Aaron's right. Not a lot of trees yet, but this is kind of what it's going to look like in Elk Grove in the 757. This is where it is. And this is also, just so you guys know, this is where the zoo is going to be close by here as well too. Nice area. Like I said, it's building out like crazy. You got the Sky Casino over there too. But this is the area where the zoo is going to be in. But the 757 is super, super competitive. Like I said, I think that if it was me and I was looking to jump into Elk Grove and I was trying to keep it under 600, I'd probably be looking at the 624. I think there's areas there that you can still do it. That would just be me. Like I said, but there are other like little areas that I like. I like Galt. I like Plumas Lake, Linda, Wheatland. I like Lincoln. I think all those spots are pretty sharp as far as that stuff goes. But I think the 757 is going to always kind of be that. All right, is it mostly investors that are buying out the 757? It seems like there's a lot of potential for that zip code with the next. Oh, yeah. Elk Grove, that zip code is going to just like, how you say, like if you look at average price there, I think it's like 7 something in the 7, like 757 is like, the average house is a little bit more expensive there, but I'm thinking that probably within the next 5 years, there's going to be a very large disparity between the 757 and like the 758 and 624. Like the 757, there was just so much development happening there. It's just like nuts. Like that zip code is just on fire. And so for me, I always say like, that it's a great spot to purchase. Like Aaron said, the potential there is just unbelievable. Like people don't get it. But I would say also check out Elk Grove and see if it's for you. I'd say like what we showed you, Folsom, different vibe than Elk Grove, but Elk Grove is still on fire. All right, we got this. Oh, we're looking at a couple of duplexes in the Citrus Heights area. Listen to me. I'm telling you straight up. Hit me up. I'll put you in touch with Corey. He's got one duplex straight up in Citrus Heights that he has off market. If you want to, I'll just put you guys in touch, and that's it, and you guys can do your thing. But he is a rock star when it comes to duplexes, quads, the whole 9 yards. He's a really great resource for that. But I think Citrus Heights, the location of it is perfect for duplexes. I also like, what else do I like? I like the Rancho area in Zinfandel, kind of near the hospital of Kaiser as well too. I also think the area kind of near the hospital that they're putting in Roseville might be a good one as well too. So there's some great spots. Okay, so now that we hit Folsom, now that we hit Elk Grove, let's talk about some of the other areas. What do you think of Galt?
I like Galt. I've got some friends out in Galt. You know, I'm originally from Elk Grove, which Galt's not too far from there. You know, Galt in the last, you know, I'd say like 5 to 10 years has actually blown up a lot. Like if you hadn't been out there in a long time and go out there now, you'd be really surprised, or you'd be kind of lost and confused by, you know, not recognizing kind of all the growth. But it's, you know, if you really got like, you know, you know, your like long-term vision on things, just natural progression, Galt is kind of like the next Elk Grove. I mean, it's
Yeah.
basically, you know, it's the next town, you know, south of there. And, you know, over time, slowly, you know, they keep getting closer and closer together as the builders in Elk Grove go south and Galt goes north. But there's a lot of sweet little neighborhoods, especially off of like Twin City Road. There's some cool little neighborhoods. You know, they don't have as many resources out there though, but that's just like the other little small towns that you listed that are at a cheaper price point. That's the exchange. You know, that's the
Yeah.
same thing with like all the people that are like, well, you know, I'd rather move to, you know, Iowa or whatever. And it's like, okay, cool, but there's not going to be a grocery store for, you know, 60 minutes or whatever the case is. So, you know, not that they don't have a grocery store in Galt, but my, you know, my point is like they're not going to have the resources of Elk Grove, just like Elk Grove's not going to really have the resources of like a Sacramento or a Folsom or Roseville. Those are kind of like the three hubs, if you will, of shopping and, you know, hospitals and all that stuff. But there's a ton of, you know, you could totally live in Galt and pretty much spend your whole life there and not have to leave for the most part, unless you wanted to go to a mall or, you know, something like that. But it's a nice little small town. So I wouldn't be opposed to that area.
It's one of it's like rated the nicest small town or in California or something like that. But look how cute it is. It kind of has like it just has, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe kind of a little bit of an Elk Grove vibe to it, but it seems pretty nice. I mean, like what I've heard about Galt is very neighborly, friendly community vibe there too. But I agree with you. I mean, based on exactly the location of this, I mean, if you look at it right here, even it's like, look how close it is. Here, let's do this. How close it is to Elk Grove. I mean, and as we see the 757 just get bigger and bigger and bigger, areas like Wilton, areas like Vineyard, areas like Galt. And I think Galt has, like you said, the most untapped potential. I think they need some shopping and everything too. But I love the town. I've been out there, showed houses. The bang for your buck, you can get something maybe like $100 to $120,000 less than Elk Grove.
Yeah.
Community vibe, really, really nice. It was maybe what Elk Grove was 7 years ago, maybe, or at least that's the vibe I get. I like the area. I think you guys should. I mean, if you're looking at Elk Grove and you're thinking, I want something a little bit more affordable, I think Galt is a great spot. I think it's flat though. What I know about Galt is it's pretty flat, but
Very flat.
community vibes really, really nice out there too. And we do some business in Galt. I like it. I think for someone who's looking for affordability, you want small town charm, but not too small town charm. I think Galt is such a nice, nice spot to check out. And I think the affordability, I think Elk Grove, I mean, Galt could be the next Elk Grove, but it also might be its own new thing because I think what I've know about Galt, a friend of mine lives there, is she was like, when it floods, everyone, you know, and not like floods all the time, but when there's like flooding or something, like everyone chips in, they're neighborly, they're friendly and all that stuff too. So I don't know. I like Galt. I would definitely check it out. I mean, that'd be me. All right. What's the problem with North Lake area? I think that here's my biggest idea, or my biggest problem with North Lake in general, right? It was Lennar created Northlake, and there was a huge buzz around Northlake. I think they thought that the housing boom would be so much that Northlake would be completed by now. So what you're seeing right now is kind of shades of 2008. Not like they're not moving. I'm not saying that. But when you go in there, there's not a lot of trees, not a lot of infrastructure, and it just looks like it's just constantly in process of building. It's not completed. It's going to take a while for it to be completed as well too. And you got flood insurance out there as well too. So like Northlake, just what I've heard from people, they're like, there's not a lot of trees, there's not a lot of stuff, infrastructure built in there, and it's just like all you see is construction upon construction upon construction. So I think eventually when it gets built out, it would probably be pretty nice. I like the zip code, I like the area close to Amazon. You know, you'll see maybe planes flying over you, maybe here and there, but I think that area, the location based on everything that's happened in Sacramento downtown is a winner. But it's just that I think Northlake was one of those things where like Lennar took too much of a bite and now they're trying to fix it. And it doesn't look pretty out there. I guess that's the main thing. I go out there all the time and it just doesn't, it's a hard thing for people to envision that whole thing being built out. And I think they just started that project and they anticipated it being built so like quicker than it was supposed to. And it's just kind of seems like it's just kind of sitting there. What do you think, Aaron?
I just, in addition to all that, it's expensive. You got HOA, Melrose, flood insurance. So you got 3 additional things that you got to add into your interest rate and the high price and all that stuff. And also you're right under the airport. Like you're going to be, you know, literally Amazon's going to be sending their drone fleet over your house most likely. But yeah, that I feel like that area has always kind of been like, you know, a stunted area of growth in our market. Like even if you go back in previous market cycles and previous decades when Natomas was first kind of blowing up, that whole, you know, lake area has always been plagued and, you know, either overbuilt or like always in construction phase or, you know, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I'd proceed with caution.
All right, we got Sunny. What do you guys think about the Briggs Ranch area? Honestly, it's on my like top of my list because eventually I'm going to be getting out of my community. I don't know when that is, like 4 or 5 years, because I don't want to deal with HOAs. Briggs Ranch, no HOAs, no Melrose, really, really cute houses over there too. There's a mix of all sorts of houses out there. I saw like a $1.3 million house out there one time. It was just enormous with a pool. I like it. It's kind of flat. It's kind of like right near Folsom Lake as well too. So there's a lot of green area as well too. I like Briggs Ranch. I think it's good. If you like Briggs Ranch, I would also say looking at what's a Rancho Diablo right next to it. It's a smaller community, kind of same vibe as well too. But I like Briggs. What do you think of it?
That's a good area. There's a whole bunch of little, like you could call them villages, like connected through that whole area that are kind of, you know, in that close to the same price point for the most part. You know, somewhat different styles in terms of like elevations of houses or whatever, but the same vibe of, you know, kind of the, you know, hilly streets with the trees and all that stuff. But you really have a tough time going wrong with a Folsom neighborhood. I mean, I can't really think of one that, I mean, in particular, like I personally, I don't like the new home neighborhoods because it's kind of like Mad Max over there with the nonstop construction and all that stuff. But someday that'll end and, you know, it'll be a nice little, you know, tree lined master plan community, just like the other side of Folsom.
I mean, look at this though. Look at this. This is Briggs right here. Okay. I think Rancho Diablo's over there as well too. But here's Briggs, and like look at the distance it is to Folsom Lake right here. Look how cool that is. Like that's one of the things I really do like about it. You got walking paths and everything too. I like it. I think, like I said, for me, I think Briggs Ranch is great. I think a lot of people might be annoyed that I'm actually talking about it because I think it's really a tight knit community. But like you got the American River. I mean, you know, it's just a nice spot, you know. But I would say check out Rancho Diablo. I think, like I said, I think you'll like it. But if you are looking for Folsom, I'm going to drop a tour on Friday at 7, and it's going to be like, pardon me for this, like it's going to be like 30, 40 minutes, but I'm going to go through like Empire Ranch, American River Canyon, Briggs. I'm going to go over like all these communities and all these areas, even new home stuff too. It's going to be a monster video that I got to finish up, and it's going to be good. But I like Briggs. I think it's good. I think one thing though, just to keep in mind is like there are some parts of Folsom that are a little bit more flat. You know what I mean? Briggs Ranch isn't so flat, but it's not like your Serpas or your Sundahl streets that are up and give you those views of downtown Sacramento. This part of Folsom is more like lake activities. You can ride bikes and everything too, which I like a little bit more. I like the idea of privacy, seclusion. You're a little bit out there. That's why people like American River Canyon North as well too. So I think it's a great area. I live in Huntington Beach and I'm looking for the same kind of place in Sacramento. Something like Huntington Beach, is it possible? Tough. What do you think, Aaron?
Well, I was thinking about that. So it's like if you want to basically live close to the water and like close to the action, which is kind of like how I would define Huntington Beach, unless like you're back into the inland part. But if that's what you were looking for, then you know you would want to be like maybe on Garden Highway, or there's a lot of houses like, if you were like in El Dorado Hills in the Lake Village neighborhood that's right next to the lake. You've got the El Dorado Saloon bar right across the street, and there's like kind of like some activity going on that you could get yourself into. You could get close, but you're gonna have a really tough time kind of like that oceanfront touristy kind of vibe that you'd have out there. What do you think on that?
Two spots I'm thinking. One is Laguna and Elk Grove, right on those like
Okay.
man-made lakes. Possible,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay.
The other thing too, I would say maybe like the West Sacramento area by like the yacht club and everything too. That kind of has a cool feel to it. Like I went out there and I did a video on one of the boats, and friends of mine were out there, and there's a whole like river life, boat life, and everything too. It's really, really fun out there too. A lot of people live on their boats, and it's like there's a yacht club and they're like $5 drinks. It's really, really fun out there. So those are areas I would look at. I'd say if you're thinking Folsom, I think you're kind of on the right path though. If you want something like that, I think Briggs might be just a little further away from everything, like Aaron said. Yeah, but I would say, look, I mean, I think like, like I said, like the Laguna area, if you haven't seen my videos, like there's these man-made lakes. It has a little bit of a San Diego feel to it as well, too. It could be fun. But again, like I would say come out here and you got to kind of feel out the area too. Folsom's awesome though. Don't get me wrong. It's more about like Folsom's more like I have a house, I got an area to store my boat, and it's fun. I mean, it really is fun. Like you're talking to someone who grew up in the Bay Area. I came to Sacramento and I just love it out here. I mean, I cannot say enough about it, but like I'd say that it's not bad. Come out here. We'll show you a good time. Me and Aaron, we'll take you out.
I was also thinking, I mean, they might maybe depending on their lifestyle and what they're looking for, like even like midtown/downtown, where they're like basically right next to all the action and all the people, and they're a hop, skip, and a jump away from the river and all that stuff. But yeah, reach out to Mark and set up a tour.
All right. Goon50 says, how does primary employer in Elk Grove compare to that in Folsom in terms of labor market? I'd say this. Okay. I'd say a lot of people in Elk Grove probably work downtown. That would just be my 2 cents. There is Apple. There are some employers in Elk Grove. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But I'd say a lot of people probably that I know in Elk Grove work probably downtown, maybe do one day to the Bay Area. I would say in Folsom, you get people probably working at like Qualcomm, some working at other spots in Folsom. Some people working downtown as well too. I would say if I was looking for like a rental property, like, and that's kind of why I like the Rosemont and College Glen area, honestly, because it's like, if you look at it on the map, it's so close to downtown, and a lot of state employers and everything too are so close to downtown. I like probably between Elk Grove and Folsom as far as for rental property. I like Elk Grove just a little bit better because of the price point. And I do think the distance to downtown, a lot of people do the commute. What do you think, Aaron?
Well, 1 in 5 people out here work for the state, and another 2 out of 5 work for a company that's a contractor of the state, or somewhere getting the money from the state or whatever. So that's part of why the housing market always does so well out here, is that we've got a strong economy, and then there's also a ton of people out here. So we've got a really large hospital network. So like Elk Grove, the basically the like four major employers are there's Apple, like Mark mentioned, there's Kaiser. The state of California has like two major buildings right off of Bond and 99, and then Delta Dental. And so those are like the biggest employers out there, besides all like the little mom and pop shops. Whereas I feel like when you get into Folsom, you've got what's going to be Qualcomm, I guess it was Intel. You've got the UC Davis Center that's going in, but then you've also got Kaiser and I think it was Adventist, or one of the other majors. You've got Folsom Lake College out there. You've got, I feel like there's more stuff going on out there in terms of economy, but then also you're still right off of a Highway 50. So if you work in downtown for the state or whatever, you're a 25-minute commute, just like you are in most circumstances in Elk Grove. So it's, probably Folsom comes out slightly ahead, but, they're pretty close, both dependent on the state, I'd say.
For me, like I said, like here's the thing, and this should help you out a little bit too. You could literally get in Rosemont a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for maybe like 420. You can't get that in Folsom. You can't get that in Elk Grove. So like for me, like as far as price point, as far as location, if you look on the
Yeah.
map, College Glen and Rosemont, it's like, for me, I love that area. Like I said, but like I said, I would say come out here and kind of feel out the market. And we got any news on the Kaiser? Which one? We got the campus coming to downtown, and then we got the other one coming to Roseville. Kaisers are being built everywhere nowadays. Crazy. And in Folsom Branch, you got Dignity, and you got like UC Davis building their campuses out there too. So medical is like so unbelievably huge here in the Sacramento area. I didn't even realize that it was as big as it is. What do you think of all these campuses being built and just medical blown up? In fact, here's the thing: the house that we had on the market in Rancho in the Anatolia area, we were getting calls left and right from people that were actually getting brought in from other areas to the new hospitals and campuses in Folsom. It was absolutely nuts. So like for me, I don't know. Look at this. Amber, one of the biggest state agencies is located in Rosemont. I know. See, I'm telling you guys, like Rosemont, and Aaron's OG out there too. You know that area like the back of your hands, huh?
Oh yeah, when I was going to comment on the investment thing, I before diving into Folsom or Elk Grove, I'd be looking at like 95826, and then I think it's nine. Oh, now of course I'm going to blank. It's Elmhurst. Where's Elmhurst? You've done a couple. You and I have put a couple of people over there. Urs and I forgot his wife's name. Ursulon. Remember that guy? Cool dude.
Yeah. Elmhurst is a
Elmhurst.
nice area.
The reason that I say that, by the way, is that you're asking, in terms of employment for Elk Grove or for Folsom, and both Mark and I both referenced the state of California, or basically companies that are dependent on the state of California. Well, those neighborhoods, College Greens, Rosemont, Elmhurst, Tahoe Park, even Oak Park, which has kind of been like regentrified and is, a lot nicer than it used to be. They're all basically like blocks away from all these major hospitals or law firms or the state capitol or wherever a lot of these people work at. And so if you're looking to attract like, not young like college throwing keggers at your property, but young like responsible professionals that make a good income and can afford a nice place, you're gonna find a lot more people in those markets, versus if you go to Folsom or Elk Grove, you need to really focus your investment on a family house, because that's most likely what you're gonna attract.
Yeah, no, definitely 100%. But like I said, also with the Sacramento area, there's people winning in all sorts of different areas. I mean, we haven't even touched in like Roseville, and Roseville's another hot market for that as well too. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. All right, Sonny says, "Thank you. I'll definitely come. Yeah, you'll love it here. Honestly, like you'll probably love Sacramento more than you think you're gonna love it. Like that's what happened to me. All right." CJ said, FYI, both me and the wife work at Kaiser. So many people medical are coming in. And it's so funny. Like, you know, we're getting calls from people like doctors, nurses, people coming in. And they're saying this straight up. This is exactly, we're moving there because one, the pay is great. And two, they treat us really, really, really well. So for me, we have a great reputation for that as well too. All right. So let's go here and let's talk a little bit about another one. I like this, and I brought in Wheatland just because, you know, I figured like giving you guys a little bit, something under 500. Now, I'd say for Wheatland, you're looking like right here. Here, let me do this. Boom. Okay, so Wheatland, you're looking at 491 as far as the median list price. So you're even looking at cheaper than Galt, which I like. I like that. What was it? There you go. And now also in that region, you're also going to see areas like Linda, Plumas Lake, and everything too. So if you're looking for something, and here's the thing, guys, also, as far as this goes, these are areas that are like up and coming kind of areas. So these are areas that I know a lot of people might go, I don't want to move all the way out there. But at the same time, like, I mean, it's like maybe a 30-minute drive from Roseville. It's a little bit further than Lincoln. Yes, it is. And Lincoln's price point has just gone crazy. It's like $650 is the average house there in Lincoln. So, but it's a nice spot. We got somebody who said, I heard good things about East Roseville. East Roseville is nice. I like East Roseville. You don't have to deal, a lot of the East Roseville communities also, you don't have to deal with Melrose or HOAs as well too. Some of them, the price range fluctuates on some of these communities, but like East Roseville is really, really nice. Now, the weird part is that when you come out here, Sonny, West Roseville and East Roseville, both great spots, completely different. So I'd say vibe them out and see what works for you. All right, let's get to this. All right, so you look here. And like I said, you got Wheatland, Plumas Lake. They just put a Costco in here as well too. These are like areas where I would say that it's realistic to get stuff in the 4s. I would say in some spots of Linda, Plumas Lake, you can probably even get stuff in the 3s. I would say 30 minutes from like Roseville, you know, kind of past Lincoln. Yes, kind of feels a little out there. But at the same time, like if you're looking for the affordability, if you're someone who maybe works in Roseville and you're saying, look, I just want to get somewhere where I have a little bit more affordability. I want a bigger house. I really don't mind that 30-minute drive. Eventually, that 30-minute drive, the freeways will get widened and it'll get better. But I like this area. What do you think of this area, Aaron?
I like it, and I like it a lot more now that I know that there's a Costco out there. I didn't realize they threw the Costco out in the Plumas Lake. So I was when you brought up Wheatland, the only thing I was gonna say negatively about it is it's kind of like living out in the country a little bit. Although you're in neighborhoods, you just got to plan for it. You can't just run up to the grocery store easily, or you don't have the same level of resources that you do in Roseville or even a Lincoln. But with having a Costco right down the street in Plumas, I mean, that's a game changer. And for the price point, that opens up a lot of doors for a lot of people that are priced out in Roseville or Lincoln. It's crazy how expensive Lincoln's gotten, but that just shows you the lack of supply. There's just not enough houses.
Well, they're also creating these communities like in Linda, you got LGI building out there in Plumas Lake, you got Cressley. So this is becoming the more like, I would say for a lot of people who are looking for affordability, this is kind of the new kind of affordable Sacramento, like it or not. And I'm not saying it was my fault in any way, but I'm just saying like, this is kind of what you're seeing right now too. And you're seeing some nice, cute little communities develop out there too. And like I said, a lot of people probably remember like Plumas Lake and Linda and everything too, back in the good old battle days. But I mean, like if you look at these maps, I mean like, brand new homes, very cute tree lines. Well, trees are growing here too. A lot of this stuff is new too, growing, developing, and everything too. You got Costco. Pretty soon there'll be stores and everything too. Really, really kind of cute area. Nice if you're looking for affordable. I mean, like this is kind of what it looks like right now. So I'd say for a lot of people that are still looking for something in maybe the high 3s, low 4s, and they don't want to buy something that they don't like, and they're saying, I don't mind the drive if I got to go out there. Guys, I'm telling you, like these areas are super kind of cute. They're building parks. They're doing all sorts of stuff. So I don't know. I think that if you're looking for affordable Sacramento, it might be a hard thing to find these days just because if you're looking for affordable Sacramento, that was like 5 or 10 years ago. But if you're looking for
Definitely.
something that you can kind of jump into, incentives also for the new homes are way better in Linda and Plumas Lake than they are in the Sacramento area for sure. But look how cute this is. And I'd say like we work with a lot of people too who are looking for like affordability in the Sacramento area. And a lot of times they will go to areas like the Plumas Lake, the Linda and everything too, because they say to themselves, you know what, our lifestyle is more about the Traeger, Costco, we entertain, and we're more about the big home as opposed to like being right close down to the pizza parlor and all that stuff too. And we don't really mind being a little away from Roseville's traffic. So this is kind of a little bit more, I'd say, of, you know, like I said, you got Olivehurst over here too, which we didn't even mention. So I'd say like that would probably be a little bit of the affordable Sacramento if you're looking for. If you're looking for Sacramento, what it was 3 or 4 years ago, I would say the Plumas Lake, Linda, Wheatland area. I'd say also the Galt area. I really, really love, and I think Meritage opened up a community there as well too. They're growing, they're
Hey, Mark.
developing, and because Sacramento is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, Folsom wasn't what a long time ago wasn't what it is now. It just grew into it because growing pains, and all of a sudden Folsom is a spot. Could it happen to Galt? Possibly. Could it happen to Plumas Lake and Linda? Possibly as well too. But that's where I would be looking if I was looking for affordable. What do you think, Aaron?
I was just going to add, zoom in on Plumas again, and we were referencing how Plumas is kind of a destination for a lot of people that they may work out of the Roseville area, but go ahead and zoom out so that people can see how close you are to the airport. Which is like the north of if you zoom in there, it's above the outline that you got there. Um, for a lot of people that either if they work for the airport or if they work for the Amazon distribution center that's like right next to it, it's like that like 50 million square foot facility. You can't really tell without zooming way in, but there's basically a bunch of back roads that are just country roads that in fact they're not like country roads that you may picture that are like a one lane squiggly kind of dirt country road. These are like 2 or 3 lane on each side, nice paved like almost highways that a lot of people use to commute. So you don't like if you worked in that area in the airport basically, or at Amazon or one of the major distribution centers over there, you wouldn't have to drive all the way over to 80 and like loop all the way around to get there. You could just basically go south and cut through everything, and it's about a 30-minute or so commute depending on which little town that you're coming from. But I know of a lot of people that make that commute based off of how close it is and the affordability factor of what they were able to get into.
Well, the other thing too is I've driven out to Linda, and for me, like Linda's over here. So for me, it was like, what's it called from Linda, and I'm not gonna do the whole road thing, but to Roseville, it literally took me about 30, was it called 33 minutes or something? I mean, it wasn't even that
Sure.
bad. So I don't know. Like I said, like I get the fact that everyone wants to kind of live in the Sacramento area, be close to everything too. But I think we are kind of in the age right now of like, I either want the house or I want the location. And sometimes you can't have both. And I think there's still areas that are relatively close to everything that you can kind of at least have that house that you've always wanted. And if you are, and if it is your time to buy and all that stuff too, like I said, like, you have those options, which are really, really nice. But I would be looking at those areas specifically. I mean, look at this Wheatland. And we're not talking about a little small, like 1,600 square foot house. We're talking like something like 2,700 square feet. You could have something big. And like Khov is building out there too. And there's monster backyards there too. My buddy Rose, who works at Khov, lives out in Wheatland. And she's like, oh man, I got a huge yard and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's kind of interesting. Now, guys, if you guys are enjoying the broadcast, let me know. We're going to jump into questions and answers from the channel. I'm going to get myself situated. I'm going to run an ad for something that I found very, very interesting. It is for rooftop sprinklers for anyone who's thinking about it. Here we go.
In just the last 12 months, over 16,000 homes in California were destroyed by fire. More homeowners are realizing they can't rely on insurance alone. They're taking action. More and more California homeowners are adopting a new trend to protect their homes. They're called rooftop sprinkler systems. They help protect homes from fire by drenching the home's rooftop with water and fire retardant before the fire has the opportunity to take over. Be proactive, protect your home before disaster strikes. Visit www.rooftopsprinklerinstallations.com for a free home evaluation. Plus, the first 15 homeowners get $250 off. Don't wait until it's too late. Contact us now.
All right, guys. Rooftop sprinklers. What do you think of those?
Well, if you're going to buy in fire country and you want to get your insurance down, that'll definitely help.
All right, let's jump into some Q&A. Elk Grove
Sure.
versus Folsom versus Roseville versus El Dorado Hills. El Dorado Hills for sure. I just bought a home in October. I love it here. So beautiful. I got to say, like, El Dorado Hills, yeah, I know we're having the home insurance stuff and everything too, but I will tell you something straight up. I just love El Dorado Hills. Whenever I have to show a house in El Dorado Hills, I am smiling from ear to ear. Such a beautiful area. What do you think of it?
It's hands down the best area. Like, if you had to just pick one little town or whatever, in my opinion, it's better than Folsom because it's nicer. It's like a more of a village thing. You got the views. And the nice thing is if you want all the shopping and the Palladio, you're literally one freeway exit down the hill, and you got all that stuff, In-N-Out Burger, the whole 9 yards at your fingertips. So El Dorado Hills is hard to beat, man.
Oh, here we go. I'm hearing and seeing property values have not really gone down since 2021. What are your thoughts? I think here's the thing. I really do think that the Sacramento area is a unique one, right? And here's what I'll tell you about the property prices here. I think if you are in this kind of like economy that we're in right now, one of the things I love is our diversity of jobs. Healthcare, state jobs, we got some tech and everything sprinkled in. I think Sacramento, the reason why we've been kind of solid with our home prices and just it's been going up is because, like, I think we were in an undervalued area. I think if you look at California as a whole, if you're looking for the affordable California lifestyle, everything California was cracked up to be. I think Sacramento is in a great location. And I think it's coming into its own right now, too, with all the projects that we're going to be seeing coming to California, with the A's choosing to come to Sacramento, or not choosing, not the players, but, A's coming to Sacramento, with the X Games coming in, with Top Golf coming into Natomas, all these kind of fun things happening. It's because Sacramento is growing and developing. And I think, like, we have still just scratched the surface. We haven't even talked about areas like, Placer, like Placer One, Placer Vineyards, all that stuff happening at Bickford Ranch. Everything is just growing and developing in so many different parts of Sacramento. Pretty soon you're going to see the light rail have their upgrades and everything too, and their safety modifications. Then you're going to see Amtrak. Amtrak's probably going to come into Elk Grove and a proposed station at the airport. So things are popping here in Sacramento, which I love. So that's what I think helps us our property prices. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. But if you just look at the numbers, I mean, I think it's, and I'm shooting from memory here, so don't kill the messenger if I'm off a little bit. But I believe since COVID, home prices are up, I think, 38%. So they haven't come down at all since 2021. In fact, they've gone up every single year significantly, and they just keep going up. Unfortunately, it's just there's too many of us and there's not enough houses. I mean, it's a numbers thing.
All right, next question. Folsom or Grant Bay, which one do you prefer if you're an outdoorsy guy? Now, here's the biggest thing is Folsom's median price point is probably like somewhere around in the high sevens, where Grant Bay is over $1 million. So that's one thing just to state out. Now, the other difference between Folsom and Grant Bay is actually on PG&E for electric, where Folsom is in Sacramento County SMUD, which is basically half the price. Now, for outdoorsy activity, as far as things to do and everything too, it's close. I mean, in Folsom, you got like Lake Natoma, you got like the American River Bike. You got so much stuff to do in Folsom, and it feels a little bit more like, I don't know, like the community vibe is very, very strong, especially in areas like the Briggs Ranch and everything too. Granite Bay, what you're going to notice is that they still have strong community vibes in areas like Los Lagos and everything too, but they build them bigger in Granite Bay, a little bit more privacy, seclusion, and everything too. As far as like outdoor stuff and everything to do, I would probably have to give a little bit of the edge. I don't know. It's tough. I don't know. It's tough. I would say maybe if it was me and I was looking for like outdoorsy stuff, I would probably be looking a little more towards Folsom, although Granite Bay is so close to Folsom Lake. It is a tough one. I think it probably depends also which community you're looking at. Briggs Ranch, for example, right by Folsom Lake. Serpa on the hill not a whole lot of like, areas. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Aaron?
I think it just comes down to money. If you're going to spend less than $1 million, then Folsom has it, and Folsom has a bunch of bike trails and shopping and access to the lake. But if you're a baller and you're going to go a mil plus, a mil and a half, 2 mil, Granite Bay, you can access all sorts of properties that have some acreage, but also that back up to the actual trails of Folsom Lake. And I mean, that's like, pretty much as close to being outdoors and all that stuff that you're going to get in the area. And if you're an equestrian, there's a whole lot of people that are into horses, a lot of horse properties out there. So depending on what your definition of outdoors is, I would say, and how much money you want to spend is going to kind of dictate that.
All right. I think they're both hard. I think like I said, like they're both amazing communities. And I think you are going to get the outdoor lifestyle in both. I don't know. I'd say Folsom gives you a little bit more community-ish. Kind of you feel like you're part of it, where Grant Bay gives you a little bit more privacy. Yeah. All right. So we got this. Why is Rancho Cordova rarely being discussed here? I love Rancho. I think Rancho is some of the best bang for your buck. Communities, new homes, and resale. And I live in technically Rancho. I live in Gold River, but Rancho is awesome. I tell anyone that I'm showing houses to, especially new home stuff, I said the biggest bang for your buck as far as what I'm seeing in the Sacramento area is Rancho. I think as far as the connector that's coming in, 99 to the 5 to the 50, I think it's in a great spot. And I think Rancho is a good spot to as far as bang for your buck. Is Rancho the perfect spot? I don't know if you could find a perfect spot, to be totally honest. I think there's always going to be something, but I will state it right here for you. I love Rancho. I think Rancho is awesome, and I will discuss them more. I will discuss Rancho a lot more. How's that? All right. I love El Dorado Hills too. El Dorado Hills is gorgeous, beautiful. And also based on statistics, El Dorado Hills became even a little bit more spendy than Granite Bay. Isn't that crazy? El Dorado Hills. All right. What do you think of Rio Linda, California? I think areas like Rio Linda, I think people might poo-poo them, but I like Rio Linda. I like areas like Citrus Heights. I like price points that are like the most affordable in an area, because that's where you're going to see major appreciation. I think for Rio Linda, I think you got to go street by street, but I like the area. I don't know. People say, oh, I don't like North Highlands. I think there's spots in North Highlands that I do like. So what do you think, Aaron?
Well, Rio Linda, if you're looking for I got a client right now that's looking for a place in Rio Linda. They're a contractor. They got a bunch of heavy equipment and trailers, and their neighbors are always complaining about them having it parked in their yard and all this. And they're like, I want to go somewhere where I can, afford a couple of acres or 5 acres or whatever. And my neighbors, I don't have CC&Rs and and HOA and all this stuff telling me what I can and can't do. So, there's a lot of freedom out there, and price points are lower. But just like you said, you got to look at it street by street, because, there are no rules for the most part in terms of like what people can do on their properties. And so, if aesthetically, if you don't want to look at all your neighbor's junk potentially or whatever the case is, you got to kind of pick and choose your area a little bit more so than compared to like, if you live where Mark lives, where, you got to get permission to plant a tree, and it better be of the right variety and of the, during the season, and only by a union arborist can install it, and, all that stuff. So, it's, the different flavors for different folks, I suppose, and there's pros and cons to it all. Mark's neighborhood, it always looks nice. Everything's, always pristine, but, you don't have the freedom to do whatever you want. So you would get that out in Rio Linda for sure. Same thing in North Highlands and some of the other areas. You just got to kind of be choosy about what street and all that stuff you want to be on.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, Manuel says, if you can afford El Dorado Hills, just stay in the Bay. Here's the thing, though. You got to understand, though, like here, for like in El Dorado Hills, a $2 million, let's say it's a $2 million house, right? $2 million house in El Dorado Hills, 3,500 square feet, like pool, everything perfect. You got a big, huge, like, ceilings. You got a nice piece of land. You're in a good community. I mean, really, I mean, realistically, $2 million doesn't buy you a whole heck of a lot in the Bay Area right now, too. I mean, in San Jose, sometimes $2 million can get you a condo if you're lucky. So I think a lot of people see that and they're like, you know what? We telecommute, we want the lifestyle out here, and we want a bigger house, and that's what we want. A lot of our business comes from people who come in from other areas because, you know, they do have that condo that they sell, maybe not for 2 million, like 1.3 or 1.4, like Sabo, our buddy. And he went out here, bought 2 acres in Elk Grove, really nice area, bought his custom home, and he just loves it. So I think the idea is that, you know, you just got to figure out exactly what lifestyle you want. Sacramento has so much of that, like, bang for your buck, and gives you that really, really nice house that you always dreamed that you wanted, especially for people coming in from the Bay. Don't you think, Aaron?
Oh man, I'm sorry, Manuel, but I totally disagree with your comment. I regularly, like probably 1 out of every 4 people that I help buy a house is relocating from the greater San Francisco Bay Area, and almost all of them are typically selling a property that they've owned for like 15, 20 years, 10 years, something like that, and basically cashing in their chips and, you know, relocating out here. And every single time, just out of curiosity, I always look up the you know, the property on Zillow or whatever that they're selling, and I'm like, "You're kidding me? You sold this piece of junk for 2.3 million? Are you got to be? Am I missing something? Did it come with
Yeah.
like a business or something? Like, were there 5 houses involved?" And they're exchanging that for like a super nice ultra luxury house in Serrano, or, you know, like some really nice neighborhood somewhere. Or I've had some clients where they buy a really nice place in Folsom or something, and then they bank the rest and they retire early, or they go, you know, buy rentals or whatever. It's for most people that are reloading from a higher cost neighborhood or market, I feel like there's no comparison. Like the folks that we've helped come out of like Southern California or the Bay Area to reload here, it's like I almost feel like it's like what was it, the Beverly Hillbillies, like where they're coming out of the slums and, you know, moving into the Beverly Hills or whatever.
It's, I mean, honestly, like the Bay, guys, I mean, if you are in the Bay and you have that house and you're thinking to yourself, I want more, just take a trip to Sacramento one weekend, look at areas, could blow you away. All right, we got Catherine, who says, do you know anything about the new development along White Rock, close to Scott Road by Folsom? I think if you're talking about the Braden project, I'm not sure if you are, it's a big, huge, it's going to be like a green kind of live, work, play space. I mean, yeah, they're supposed to start some of the housing. I think the town center is going to come in, they're going to do housing, but it's supposed to be this whole kind of community. I did a video about that project a couple weeks ago, and people were screaming and yelling and saying that it's going to be a prison and everything too. If that's the community you are talking about, just let me know. But it's Braden. It's actually online, and you can actually look at all the maps and all that stuff too. It's going to be crazy coming to the area. If I'm right about that, and if I'm not, I apologize. All right. Which three cities in the greater Sacramento area have the highest potential for growth and appreciation? What do you think, Aaron?
If I just had to go quick, I'd say Folsom, Roseville, Elk Grove, in that order.
Ooh, okay. I would say this. I would say, like, I'm going to throw a dark horse out there. I'm going to say, like, I like Citrus Heights. I like it as far as like low barrier to entry, and I think that there could be a little bit cap there. I mean, I think you could go. I think Elk Grove, the 757, I think it's great. I think it's going to be interesting also what happens when the A's and the X Games can't come, because right now that market right now in the East Sacramento area, Land Park area, Oak Park area, Tahoe Park area, it's soft. So those areas could be something too. But I'd have to go with Aaron for, like, if I was going to be putting my money in for a winner, I like the 757. I mean, it's just, I don't know. There's something about it right now. There's some energy there. All right. North Island is ghetto nowadays. Is being terrorized by county enforcement sweeps on a monthly basis when homeless are not taken care of by the county. Man, it's a shame. I'd say, like, here's the thing about North Highlands. I think it does have potential. I think the area, the location is right there. So, you know what I mean? All right.
I think, you know, at the end of the day, if all you can afford is North Highlands, home prices in North Highlands are appreciating just as much as they are in other areas. It's just they're you know, not worth as much because they weren't worth as much to begin with. So it's like you know, but that gets you into the market and building equity versus if I were, comparing that to just renting an apartment or whatever and not building equity, I'd be flexible and consider neighborhoods that maybe aren't as nice as some of the other ones, and then eventually I'd try and trade in my chips for a bigger house. You and I, in fact, we helped somebody not too long ago that moved out of their North Highlands house that they lived in for like 23 years, and they bought one of those baller skyline Toll Brothers houses in Rockland, Carolina.
Yep.
But shout out to Caro. But yeah, the North Highlands, I wouldn't be opposed to that if that's the price point that you can get into.
All right, Ivan says El Dorado Hills is much better than the Bay Area. 150%. All right. Why do you say Citrus Heights is better for growth? Well, you said appreciation. So for me, here's what I always look at. If you're buying like in an area like Citrus Heights, well, the biggest problem with Citrus Heights is, of course, like access to a freeway. Okay, that's big. But if you look location of Citrus Heights and barrier entry, like you're still playing by the great real estate rules of buying the most affordable in an area of higher price points. Folsom, you're not getting into Folsom it's gonna be hard to get into Folsom for under 750. It just is, right? And so Citrus Heights, can you still get into Citrus Heights for maybe even something in the low fours? Possibly, if you're lucky. But then you have a lot of room to kind of grow. And Citrus Heights, for me, I've seen it grow. I've seen it be one of those things where, like, if things hit the market at like 420 or something like this, it'll fly. And it's in an area where you still have a little bit of a ceiling there. So that's kind of what I like, right? I look at location. I look at like history as far as like if you look at history of like some of these properties in Citrus Heights, you'll see what I mean. And also like as far as your investment you're putting in. Now, granted, like if you put in like what's called like $1 million in a house in Folsom, could you see some return on your investment? Yeah, absolutely. But I just don't think that those areas are going to increase that much as like an area in Citrus Heights as far as like appreciation. What do you think, Aaron?
Well, it also, you gotta factor in cash flow too. I'm assuming, by the way, that we're talking about a rental property and not like where you're gonna live, right? So
Yeah.
if we're talking a rental, then it's not just about appreciation. It's also about my cash flow and also the potential depreciation game that I can play with the property. And the combination of those three things is like the power of the investment property. So it's harder to cash flow in Folsom, Roseville, Elk Grove versus Citrus Heights, I would say, because you're going to have a lower price point in Citrus Heights.
Yeah.
But you're not going to necessarily have the same appreciation growth in Citrus Heights. But that's where like you got to sit down and really look at all the different numbers that are going to play a role in your cost of ownership. Because also like if you're buying a newer place, well, you're going to have less maintenance costs of, maintaining that property because your tenant's not going to fix all that stuff. You're going to have to pay for that.
Yeah.
Or, the various things, which, that's why you should reach out to, what's your guy's name? Corey?
Yeah, he's good about that. I mean, he likes citrus too. We were talking about it. Do you know what his mentality was about Citrus Heights? It was kind of cool. He was like, everyone's looking for Folsom. Everyone's looking for Elk Grove. Everyone's looking for Roseville. And the markets where people don't really know about, like the citruses, like, the Carmichaels and stuff, he's like, those are overlooked. And that's some untapped potential. It's always where people aren't looking, if you can kind of jump in there and grab something. Because, eventually we don't have that much inventory on the market. So a lot of people will, if they want to rent, they're going to have to go to Citrus, or they're going to pay like, what, $1,000 more to live in Folsom. So Aaron's right, though. You got to run numbers and see what pencils. But for me, I don't know. There's something to be said. Getting maybe even a duplex in Citrus, that's not too bad. All right, to the next. My friend's $5 million home in Saratoga doesn't even come close to what you can get here for half the price. Stan, I am with you. This is what I'm preaching. Everyone always he's like, man, yeah. But like, I'm telling you guys, I lived in the Bay. I grew up in an Eichler. It was like 1,700 square feet, cute backyard. But honestly, like, and we sold that house for like 1.3. And for 1.3 here, you could buy yourself a 4,000 square foot house. You could have views. You could have a pool. I mean, just the possibilities here are just crazy. You guys definitely need to check it out. All right, the difference between the Bay Area and Sacramento is you exchange the heat for earthquakes, yet no warning for earthquakes. What do you think, Aaron?
I feel like the earthquake thing is a little overrated. Now, I know I say that, and all of a sudden everybody needs to grab their stuff as the world starts shaking or whatever. But I mean, I have friends that live in the Bay Area. My brother lives in the Bay Area. It's a pretty rare occasion when you actually hear about something that in terms of an earthquake that was newsworthy. I think more so the heat is definitely a complaint. My brother, he bitches nonstop about the heat. Like getting him to come out. My birthday's June 13th. Getting him to come out to the pool parties, like, just like pulling teeth. So a lot of people that live in the Bay Area, they definitely do enjoy that cooler, you're probably 10, 15 degrees cooler or whatever. But you just like my brother, you're going to live on a postage stamp in a cage in your tiny little, house or apartment or whatever the case is. And everything's super expensive and congested. So I feel like, the exchange is like, all right, you got an air conditioner. If you're coming out from the Bay, you can afford to get a place that's got a pool. They even got those outdoor misting systems and all that stuff. I mean, you could really tune your place up and kind of eliminate the heat. And the heat's only bad for like maybe a month. And that's really like when everybody's just in the pool nonstop or you're, in your air conditioning or whatever. But besides from that, it's definitely like bearable. It's not like you're in the Nevada desert or something like that. But I don't know. What do you think? You're from the Bay. Do you remember there being earthquakes all the time?
I mean, I was in the earthquake of '89. Then I went to college, and I was in the Northridge earthquake. So it kind of follows me around. Sacramento is the one spot I've been okay with. Earthquakes do happen. I think they're really kind of freaky. I mean, they're just. I tell you, I was in the Northridge one, and after it stopped shaking, all you hear is car alarms. It was crazy, and the Bay Area one in '89 was absolutely horrendous. All those people being trapped. It was brutal. Those things are just like life black swan events. For me, I'll be honest, for the first 3 years, the heat was brutal for me. But the weirdest thing happened is I started going back to the Bay Area to visit my friends and everything too. And the Bay Area is getting hotter. I don't know what you guys are saying. The summertime happens and I go to the Bay Area. It was a lot cooler when I was younger in the Bay Area. And a lot of the houses in the Bay Area were designed to have horrible air conditioners. And so I walked into like an Eichler, a friend of mine's Eichler, and they had this air conditioner that was sticking in the glass and they were turning it on and trying to futz with it. And I'm thinking of my house in Sacramento that's designed for a little bit of hot weather. So and we're on SMUD, so half the price of PG&E. And I'm thinking to myself, man, my house in Sacramento is like 74 degrees. I'm here in the Bay Area. It's supposed to be cooler, and it's like 85 degrees in this house, and I'm baking. So for me, I like the summertime here in Sacramento. I like having the pool. I like the whole thing. Like there isn't anything about Sacramento, and I don't miss the Bay Area. Now and again, maybe my favorite spot in San Francisco, House of Nan King. I'll go there for some Chinese food, but I don't know. Less traffic here. It's really, really nice, relaxed, friendly people. And I enjoy the lifestyle. I think the pace is a lot better here in Sacramento too. I don't feel as so like every morning I'm jumping on a treadmill. So I don't know. For me, I like it. All right, next one. Is a gated community, despite the HOA costs, a better investment long-term for upkeep and value? Ooh, what do you think, Aaron?
I definitely think that it adds value, especially if you're looking at like resale value, not like rental value. Although you could make an argument that helps make your property more desirable to renters, but you know living in a gated community is definitely, there's more security to it. Obviously, usually they're kept up much nicer than the non-gated. They got a HOA, all that stuff. And as much trash as I talk about HOAs and all that, there is something to be said for the fact that it basically keeps crazy neighbors from doing things to their house that are going to drag your property values down and make, somebody not want to buy your house when you go to sell it down the road or whatever. So, if you can afford to be in a gated neighborhood, I am not opposed to that at all. I think that it's a good investment.
I think it also depends on the price point of your house as well too. Los Lagos, I think that like when I'm showing Granite Bay a lot, you know, and people are looking for like the high price point house, and they see no gate, it kind of throws
Oh
them
yeah,
off, right? So I think for
totally.
something like that, I think it does. Now for me, I think I don't necessarily care about the gated community myself, but I don't like HOAs just because you know my messed up here. But I will tell you one thing though, like having at least a minimal HOAs that enforces the CCNRs in an area, I think is okay, right? And I think at least like like I said, I want to kind of get away from HOA like maybe 4 or 5 years. But would I move into an area that maybe had like a $80 HOA that enforces CCNRs like in Curro Downs and Fair Oaks? Yeah, I think that that's right because Aaron does bring up a valid point. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Like I think it depends on the price point. Like I said, for me, when I go higher price point, gated is something that a lot of people are like, I want a gated community. And if they don't see it, they don't even want to see the house. So that's what I'd say on that one. All right, here we go. What do you think about a duplex in Citrus Heights for $600K, renting for $2,000 each side? Granted, will not cash flow at the moment. Thinking with all the landlord right etc. will it be worth in the long? Yeah, I think so. I think if you can find it, I think you might even be able to get. I think like you can get. Yeah, I think that's. I like that. What do you think, Aaron?
I love duplexes. You know, you're basically you're diversifying your tenant exposure, your occupancy rate. You know, a lot of times when you're basically like forecasting out your revenue on a rental property, you know, a lot of people, you want to be all, you know, sunshines and rainbows and assume that somebody's going to be renting it out 12 months out of the year, but that's not realistic, right? So you got to plan that out. Well, if you were going to take 600 and put it into one house and have one tenant and get $4,000 from one tenant and have a 75% occupancy rate versus now you've split that in half and now you have two tenants, well, you know, the likelihood of both of them being unoccupied at the same time is very low, I would say, right? So it's like I really like that. Also, there was a law in place for decades that basically made it to where you couldn't build any duplexes or fourplexes or all that stuff. And so finding duplexes can be really difficult. So they also carry a lot more appreciation, growth, and buyer interest, in my opinion, when they do become available because, you know, just for those reasons that I just stated, by having more tenants under one roof and the diversification there, also you're usually able to charge more rent that way than what you would with just a single tenant in the same occupancy. But you know, you're going to be much better off if you can get that. So that's a good move. Go for it if you got that opportunity there.
All right, the Creative Keep. I also feel that new builds in Rancho Cordova are skipped over often, usually El Grove versus Folsom. Here's the thing for me. I think Rancho, I think the Vineyard area are probably like I love those areas. I think as far as like incentives and everything, I think they're great. I think Rancho, you can still get stuff in the fives. I think West Roseville, you're getting into the six territories. I think Vineyard's another great spot that's sometimes overlooked, but I like it as well too. So for me now, I mean, I've literally over the last 3 years, I've probably put in like 40 people in various communities in Rancho. And, you know, like I said, and we were completely transparent about Rancho and all the stuff that comes with the Rancho, but like bang for your buck is there. Everything is nice as far as like location. And like I said, a lot of people will complain about Rancho one way or the other, but I say to myself, like, it's a great bang for your buck. Like, you can't get that anywhere else as far as like, and I still think Rancho gives you better incentives than the Vineyard area. So for me, Rancho is one of the spots I like to go to. I think what you got Cahab out there, you got like Woodside out there, you got Pulte out there. You even have like Elliott Homes building a couple of them too. I think it's a great area. So I apologize if it's me, but like I love Rancho. I think it's great. Currently, we have actually 4 people in contract at Rancho for new homes. We have 1 in Cressley, we have 2 in Cahab, and 1 in Woodside. So like Rancho for me is probably the one spot where if someone's saying to us, we want to be we don't want to be too far away. We want to kind of be close to everything. We want to have access to Folsom and everything too. And also the thing about Rancho that's was really nice. It's not super close, but it's like 12 minutes from like the Kaiser on Zinfandel as well too. So for me, I love that area. And like I said, I have a really good track record in the Rancho area as well too. So I'm with you. All right.
I would just add, Mark, that it's exciting to see that we have a lot of new viewers to the channel. Welcome, thank you for tuning in, and I would also encourage you to go back about 3 weeks ago where Mark and I did a 1-hour video on Rancho Cordova. Everybody keeps commenting that we've skipped over it, and we literally did a whole segment on Anatolia, Rancho. We compared north of Highway 50, south of Highway 50. We did a deep dive, so make sure to go check that video because we went all through Rancho Cordova.
Yeah. Rancho is really untapped potential. Not to mention, you'll love this one too. In Rancho, there's an area called the Barrel District. Some of the best even though I don't drink, some of the best microbreweries I've heard in that area. Movement Brewery, Flaming Barrel. It is really, really a good spot. Like I said, like I like it. I like it. All right. Pamela says, what do you think about the River Lake in Pocket? First of all, there's nothing in the Pocket that I don't like. I like the Pocket. Pocket's on my short list for the 4 to 5 year. What do you think about Pocket?
Dude, you and I, like within the last 45, 60 days, you and I did a video specifically on the Pocket too. And Pamela, you should go check that out. The Pocket is an awesome neighborhood, but just like we talked about in that video, there's like literally like 6 houses over there that are ever for sale. It's really, really difficult to get in. But if you can get in there, and you like being on that side of town, especially if you work downtown, the, I-5 convenience, all that stuff. And of course, if you can afford it, the Pocket neighborhood's sweet.
All right. Do you guys recommend a mortgage calculator that's actually really close to actual? Aaron, that's on you, man. You guys got one, right?
We do. Go to newwaymortgage.com, and right on the top, there's a button to click for a mortgage calculator, and you can actually include your property taxes and homeowners insurance and all of that stuff and get a real accurate, quote. And then I would also encourage you, if you want to get a really accurate quote, fill out the little thing that says get a quote, and we won't pull your credit or drive you nuts or anything, but there's a lot of different ways to get a home loan, to qualify for a home loan, and ultimately what derives your interest rate, which is the key to calculating an accurate monthly payment. And with a little bit of information about what you're trying to accomplish, we can actually give you a no hassle quote on an interest rate so that you know exactly what you would actually qualify for. And then your numbers are going to be really accurate, when you're looking at potentially purchasing a house or refinancing or whatever the case is. So just go to newwaymortgage.com.
All right, we got Stan. Coming from a non-gated area, being in a gated community brings peace of mind, especially with families. Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, how can you say, like, there are pros and cons with everything. I mean, if you want the gate, you got to pay for it. But at the same time, like, there are some people who want their privacy. We work with a lot of doctors also who just want that as well too. Like, it's just, and that's the beautiful part about Sacramento. And I don't mean to stand on my soapbox again. It's like, we have gated communities, we have non-gated communities, we have this, we have that. So we have everything you could possibly want here. So if a gated community, and like, I have people specifically who are like, we're only going to live in gated communities. We got them. We got a lot of them. So yeah, I like it. Dan Loesch, the man, the myth, the legend. Dan is, if you're looking for a contractor, if you're looking for someone to build your house, ADU, Dan is the man. HOAs are thumbs down. The show is, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. Dan is the man. If you guys are looking for an ADU, if you're looking for a contractor, if you're looking for a guy who just basically has high integrity and can do it all, that is Dan Loesch. I missed that one. We'll go back and check. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll do a part 2 of it too. I did a couple on Rancho. I did one with Aaron. That was really a deep dive too. You guys definitely got to check that out. All right. Is Rancho a good place to live? What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, we've got my daughters, through my daughter, her friends at school. We've met quite a few different of the kids' parents that live out there. And so we've got some new friends out in that area. some on the north side of 50, some on the south side of 50. You know, one of the nice things about Rancho, I would say, is that the affordability factor is you're going to be able to get in way easier there than you are in a lot of areas. And at the same time, it's conveniently located. You're right off of the 50. You're right near Sunrise, which is one of the main thoroughfares that gets you up to Roseville or, that side of town. You can get to Elk Grove very easily as well. Same way. So it's a conveniently located, price point's good. You can get into the new homes if you want that, or you can go on the resales on the north side of 50. So there is a lot of opportunities. I am, when we always get asked like, well, is buying here a good idea? And usually what people are asking is like, is the price going to go up or down or those kinds of things, right? And one of the things that I like about Rancho as well is that it's surrounded by higher price point neighborhoods. And that
Yeah.
whole concept of like when you're buying a house in a neighborhood, you never want to buy the biggest, most expensive house in the neighborhood because you're never, you're going to be at the top. You're not, you want to kind of be in the sweet spot in the middle. And with Rancho, you've got a lot of other like high growth areas, especially Folsom right next to it, Elk Grove, that are going to, support that growth as well. So I'm not opposed to Rancho Cordova at all. I think that's a good area.
I think, like I said, for me, I always looked at it like Rancho. We've moved in a lot of people to Rancho and that specific different areas of Rancho by Zinfandel, New Home stuff, Gold River and everything too. And I mean, everyone seems to be very pleased with their decision. Everyone seems to like the area. We haven't gotten a lot of calls yelling at us for anything. Everyone seems to really like the communities, like the growth, likes the potential of the area. But like I said, I think if you are considering like Rancho, I would say come out and take a look at it, right? Vibe it out. Go to your Targets, go to your Costco's and see the type of people that live here and see if this is your spot. It's very subjective as far as that stuff goes. But as far as I know, as far as the people we've worked with, we got all smiles. So that's definitely a good thing. All right, let's go to the next one. This is for you. Busy Bee, is HELOC ever going to go down? Interest currently having at 8.8%.
Well, that's all going to come down to the Federal Reserve, and because the Federal Reserve, they control the Fed funds rate, and banks tie home equity line rates to what they call as prime, which is basically that Fed funds rate. And based off of all the data that the Fed has been getting, this Friday we're going to get the personal consumption expenditures report, which is the Federal Reserve's most favorite measure of inflation. Obviously, nobody knows what the future is going to hold, but if I had to place my own bet, I think we're not going to see the Fed cut interest rates for a good year or so. I mean, we're kind of stuck in this like inflation zone, and the employment market continues to do pretty good. So the Fed can't really cut interest rates without causing inflation. In fact, a lot of the Feds are now saying that they're of the opinion that they shouldn't have dropped the 50 bips that they already did. So, I wouldn't expect to see the HELOC rate come down anytime soon.
All right.
Unfortunately.
Do you think?
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no worries. You're the mortgage guru. So, okay. Do you think that the market? Do you think there's a market correction coming to the Sacramento and the greater areas? What we have been seeing, and this is kind of interesting, the other areas of the country, what you've been seeing is that inventory has, really piled on the market. And what we see is a stall in buyer demand. It hasn't happened to the Sacramento area just yet. I don't really see it happening, but at the same time, in areas like Florida, some areas of Texas as well too, they've been seeing it. That inventory has been going up and buyer demand has been kind of going down when we thought buyer demand would come out to eat that inventory. I think that there's a lot of things you need to watch out for. Do I think it's going to be like, oh my God, it's crashing? Nah, I don't see it. I just think that what you're probably going to see and the things you got to watch out for is a little bit like interest rates. If interest rates stay at 7, you could see buyers kind of say, well, I'm still not going to jump in because buyer demand right now is a little bit slower than we thought it would be, even in Sacramento. I'd say inventory as well too. If we get a whole bunch of people throwing a whole bunch of houses in the resale market on the market, it could add a little fluctuation to our market. I don't see a correction happening, but those are the signs to watch out for. What do you think, Aaron?
Well, define correction. Like, do prices come down 0.5% or 1%, or are we talking, or do they drop 20, 30, 50% like we saw in 08, 09, that type of thing? And when people bring that up, I have to remind everybody that the reason that home prices dropped so much was that like 2/3 of mortgagees were upside down on their mortgage. They owed more on their mortgage than what their home was worth. They also took out adjustable rate mortgages. And so their payment all of a sudden out of nowhere was like twice or three times what they could afford. And so you had all these varying, basically distressed situations for the homeowners that do not exist. Most homeowners are sitting nice and comfy in a really low, affordable interest rate. And their biggest complaint is they're trapped in their low rate and can't move because it's too affordable where they're at. So the likelihood that the market's going to be flooded with a bunch of foreclosures and short sales and distressed properties that actually drive prices down significantly, no way, Jose. I'm not betting on that at all. But as far as corrections go, I do think that there's going to be pockets and areas, and I'm actually already seeing it, but it's not going to be in the markets where most buyers are going to be interested in. But if you're somebody that's looking in the high fire zones, then I'm starting to see prices come down pretty significantly, like anywhere between 10 to up to like 20%. And the reason for that, it's, don't get too excited, because that 10 to 20% price drop, well, the payoff, the exchange is that you're going to pay, $8, $9, $10,000 a year for homeowners insurance. And that is the reason why you're seeing those prices come down, is that, they weren't able to sell their house for $1.25 million because nobody wanted to bite off on that and the $10K a year insurance. So they had to drop it to $9.99 or whatever it was to move it. But in high demand markets, especially Folsom, Roseville, Rancho Cordova, all those ones, I don't see it likely that we're going to see, prices actually come down at all. Or if they do, it's not going to be anything to get excited about.
Nah, I'm with you. Unless we get some weird thing happen. I like it if for some reason like we get flooded with even more inventory and rates go up to like 7.5 or 8%. I mean, there could be some interesting things happen in the market, but I don't see it either. I mean, the thing about the Sacramento area that I love too is we got so many projects happening, and Sacramento is on such a roll right now too. We're kind of a weird anomaly here in the real estate market. So I don't know. I just don't see it with all these projects planned and everything too. A's coming in X Games, all that stuff happening, like Aggie Square. I don't see it. Okay. What is Los Lagos known for, aside from Eddie Murphy's house? I hate that too, by the way. Okay, so also, would Grass Valley be considered part of the Sacramento metro area? Now, Grass Valley is an interesting spot. Okay, so here's the thing about the Grass Valley area. I love the Grass Valley area. Aaron is like smiling from ear to ear because he pivoted a little bit and he's been looking in Grass Valley. What do you think, Aaron? I'm gonna let you roll
I would
with this.
not
Go.
Yeah, well, Los Lagos is just it's known for being one of the more exclusive neighborhoods in Granite Bay. It's a really nice gated, every house is super custom. They're all on the lake. A lot of them have lake views. And of course, Eddie Murphy's baller house was out there. But Grass Valley, I wouldn't necessarily say it's part of Sac Metro. I would say, if anything, it's closer to being part of like quote unquote Roseville Metro, if that was a thing. But Grass Valley is pretty much like, if you're going to live up there, you're kind of like self-sustained up there. You're not going to really leave that area too much. You're not going to want to, at least, but it's beautiful up there. I'd move there in a hot second, but it's hard to convince my wife and all that stuff. But very, very nice neighborhoods, nice little small communities, all that stuff. And you just got to be prepared to pay fire insurance, because most of the areas are in, high fire zones, but there's some really good places up there.
Oh man, Grass Valley. If you like Yellowstone, you will like Grass
Oh,
Valley.
for sure.
Okay, Stan says, with so many people with 3% rates, I doubt anyone will sell unless there's a good reason. Like I said, I've been seeing a lot of listings, but it's basically like I said, the 3Ds: death, divorce, and departing the state. It's still that. Or you'll see a weird house and you'll be like, huh, all the other houses on the block sold for like 900,000. This one's selling for 1.1 million. I'm not really seeing why. And it's because the seller's still living there and they basically had someone call them up during dinner time, got them to list their home, made sure that they said, give me 1-1 or I'm not selling. And there you go. I don't know why anyone would want to deal with that drama, but a lot of people do. And you're going to see some pricing that's going to be a little out of whack. And you would say, that does not make any sense to me. So yeah, I think we're going to have that big 2.75, 3% problem for a while. All right. We got Elk Grove is wonderful. Also, for people who love the country, as Wilton is our neighbor. I love living in the city while being able to drive 10 to 15 minutes to ride my horses. We got some good stuff here in the Sacramento area, man. Elk Grove, horses. Oof, yeah. And Wilton is beautiful. One day maybe I'll do a video on Wilton. I like Wilton. All right. Affordable Dream in Rancho Cordova. Cressley is very nice. Cressley's a great builder. I'd say in Rancho, one of my favorite builders easily. Nice stuff. Really, really nice. Cressley and Premier was there for a while ago, but now they're no more. So Cressley is nice. All right. Bought our first home in Elk Grove in the late 90s. No regrets. Lived there for 5 years and got some great price appreciation. Then we sold, got out of that there in a hurry, though, when it was time for our kids to go to school. What do you think?
I mean, that's like the timeline that I lived in Elk Grove in the 90s and all that stuff. I mean, there was some massive growth in Elk Grove during that time. In fact, I remember leaving for the Air Force and coming back like a year and a half, 2 years later after not coming home to visit, and almost being like, did I go to the wrong place? Like when all of a sudden there's all these neighborhoods or shopping centers, like there's massive growth during that time frame. But yeah, that's funny. 90s were good.
All right, Aaron, we are done for the evening. 2 hours. It's a record. Guys, if you enjoy the live broadcast, we do this every single Wednesday at 7 p.m. on YouTube. Smash that like button. Comments, questions are always answered. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Aaron, any parting words?
It's if you want to connect, go to newwaymortgage.com. See you guys later.
All right, guys, and remember, Friday, 7 p.m., I'm giving you a map tour that's going to be like nothing you've ever seen on Folsom, California. It's going to be pretty amazing, and so wait for it to drop Friday at 7. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. What do you guys think? Is Sacramento still affordable? Not just in relation to California, but in relation to the nation in general. Now, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this live broadcast. If you did, smash that like button and make sure to subscribe because we'll be dropping a lot of content about the Sacramento area. Now, if you're thinking about moving to the area, guys, my team would absolutely love to talk to you. Let's get on a Zoom call, educate you, answer any questions you might have, and see if Sacramento does fit the bill for what you're looking to do. Now, guys, also, if you live in the Sacramento area and you're thinking about selling your home, don't work with one of those realtors that sticks a post in the ground, crosses their fingers, and hope it sells. Guys, we get more eyeballs on your property than any other team in the Sacramento area. Reach out to us. We'll tell you exactly how we market homes, and we get them sold on YouTube. One last thing before I go. Over here, there's a playlist of all the other lives that I've done to educate you on the area. Again, guys, this is Mark. Have a good one.